to the program. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Let's begin in Sudan, where at least 14 people have been killed by floods triggered by heavy rainfall in Nile River State's Al Shadnad village. The downpour caused widespread destruction and casualties. Residents who survived waded through flooded streets as well as damaged and collapsed houses and debris scattered across the area. The Sudanese Doctors Committee reported that floods and heavy rains in Nile River State damaged 154 homes, displaced 1,078 people. In the meantime, the official Sudanese news agency reported that 14 people were killed in the Nile River and Sennar states as a result of the flooding. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has arrived back in Abuja after his two-day nation trip to Japan and Brazil. The president, who left the country on Friday, August 15th, arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at about 1:20 this morning. He was received by a delegation led by the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, Deputy President of the Senate, Barau Jibrin, governors of Plateau, Kwara and Imo states, the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, and other government officials. Well, before the President's arrival in the country, he had attended the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development in the city of Yokohama, Japan. He also paid a state visit to the Republic of Brazil, where he was accorded an official welcoming ceremony with full military honors and several memoranda of understanding as well as agreements signed between Nigeria and Brazil. And before he left the South American nation, he met with a cross-section of Nigerians resident in Brazil. The president, in attendance of that meeting, which was put together by the chairman, CEO of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Dr. Abike Dabirerewa, the Speaker of the House of Representatives was present, plus the Deputy Senate President, the governors of Kaduna and Kano states, the Minister of Information, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, and the Minister of Science and Technology, amongst others. And one of the outcomes of the president's visit to Brazil is the agreement between the two countries for direct flights between Nigeria and Brazil. Well, after the 3 days of high-level meetings and bilateral agreements, the Nigerian government officials who accompanied the president also returned to Lagos from Brazil. This was on board the inaugural direct flight between Nigeria and Brazil. Now, according to the officials, the development is part of the current administration's efforts at strengthening ties and expanding the economies of both nations.
Ministers and top government officials who accompanied President Bola Tinubu to Brazil on his 3-day visit arrived at Murtala Mohammed International Airport on the flights between Nigeria and Brazil, courtesy of Air Peace.
Let's wait for the Minister of Aviation.
The visit, according to the Minister of Information and National Orientation, is geared towards boosting bilateral relations, enhancing trade partnerships, and fostering cooperation in areas such as agriculture, energy security, as well as technology.
We have just landed on the first maiden flight between Brazil and Lagos. As you know, Mr. President was in Brazil, and he made a commitment together with President Lula da Silva of Brazil to have direct flight connection between Nigeria and Brazil. In that agreement, Air Peace was designated as one of the carriers that has been approved to undertake this kind of shuttle. And then there's also Caverton, I think, for cargo. So we all decided to join, courtesy of the chairman of Air Peace. He took us gratis, all from Brazil here to Lagos. This is part of the fulfillment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed agenda, opening up Nigeria, opening up the world to Nigeria.
Members of the Nigerian delegation include the Minister of Trade, Foreign Affairs, Aviation and Aerospace Development, amongst others.
Brazil is the biggest economy in South America, and of course, Nigeria is considered the biggest economy in Africa. So connecting these two economies was very key to both presidents. The trade between both countries plummeted from $10 billion to $2 billion dollars. And that is how, in 10 years, and that was how the things got sour. But with this, of course, relations will pick up again. And key to this, key to the achievement of all the agreements we signed is the connectivity between both countries.
Several agreements were signed during the visit, including framework for joint ventures in renewable energy and agricultural development, as well as knowledge-sharing initiatives in technology and infrastructure. And the chairman of Airpeace believes the flight connection between Nigeria and South America will be very crucial in achieving the set objectives outlined by both nations.
Connectivity is the key to everything signed. Our dear president signed several MOUs with Brazil. He has just opened this country for the youth of this country. He's creating a Nigeria for the future of everyone. And you might not know the opportunities that are embedded in all the MOUs signed until they start being implemented. It's huge. But what we did today is symbolic and at the same time real.
This historic flight marks a significant step towards deepening Nigeria's global partnerships and driving sustainable economic growth, as Nigerians are hopeful to feel and see the impact of the agreements signed in Brazil.
It's been a busy round of diplomacy for the president traveling to Japan and Brazil. In Tokyo, he joined other leaders at the TCAT summit, where investments and energy cooperation were top of the agenda, with numerous MOUs signed on power, health and renewable energy. And in Brazil, Nigeria signed several deals as well, from Petrobras planning a return to the country's oil sector to boosting trade and agriculture. There was also the announcement of a new direct flight between Nigeria and Brazil. The administration says all of this is part of the president's economic push to attract investments and strengthen Nigeria's global ties. But what is the real gain for Nigerians back home, and how are these moves beneficial in terms of foreign policy and economic priorities? I speak to a man who's been sampling public opinion. African affairs analyst Okwe Pala joins us now on the program. Okwe, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
And let me begin by asking you how hopeful you are, of these deals that were signed in Japan and in Brazil. The trip back, the direct flights established between the two nations, Brazil and Nigeria, surely must give you some hope.
Sure. It's a very, for a long time, we have not been using our bilateral agreement, and this is a very good one between Brazil and Nigeria. And a lot of other agreements have been signed that give some level of hope, including the livestock, including the cooperation between an agricultural matter between Brazil and Nigeria. Brazil is one of the countries that have gotten their livestock farming very right, and they can assist Nigeria, and we can do a lot of things together. Indeed, on paper, the agreement that have been signed appear to be good. However, the problem is always in the implementation. Can we follow up? Buhari also signed many agreements. He made many tours, signed many MOUs. But most of those MOUs they were not implemented. Most of those agreements were not activated. They were not operated. So what we need to do differently, what we are seeing now, we have always seen.
Right.
However, what we want to see, is different, a different way of following up, a different way of operating this agreement, and a different zeal and determination to make sure that Nigeria actually benefits from this agreement. Otherwise, I'm sure that there are thousands of agreements in the shelves that have never been operated, right from Buhari area down to Tinubu area. But the loan, I think this time around, the president and his men should follow up on this agreement and make sure that actually Nigerians really benefit from them.
Yeah, I can actually echo, what you're saying, because I remember that when Jeffrey Yama was Minister of Foreign Affairs, he did fly a direct flight from Jamaica back to Nigeria, and there was that agreement. But now we're still trying to finalize, agreements between the two nations for direct flights to Jamaica and back. So Petrobras, we hear, is coming back to the country. That must be some good news. How much of an impact do you think this will have on our oil sector? I mean, considering that we're already struggling with petrol prices and, the refining of oil. We have one of the biggest refineries here on the continent, and yet we're still struggling with provision of fuel for Nigerians to utilize and get from point A to point B.
Well, Petrobras is one of the national oil companies that have, Brazil is one of those who have gotten it right, and Petrobras is the major, is the operating arm for the oil industry. And we have to learn one or two things. Our NNPC, what has happened? And Petrobras have been here before. Right. I hope we have interrogated what made them leave and make sure it doesn't happen. I hope the government have also interrogated what is making so many other investors, direct investors, to leave Nigeria. Corruption, inefficiency, poor purchasing power. Government should, yes, it is not just enough to attract and re-attract investors. It's important to find out what makes those who are there leave, and what makes those what makes it necessary even for us for a presidential visit to happen before investors will come. And I think the president has done enough of traveling. He has done so much in traveling. I think there's enough. Nigerians need to be, those who really need to be persuaded to invest in Nigeria are Nigerians. There are Nigerians with deep pocket money for investment, both within Nigeria and in diaspora. And when such Nigerians make huge investment in Nigeria, when Nigerians in diaspora make huge investment in Nigeria, it will say much more than what 1,000 presidential visits will say. Because when people are voting with their feet, foreign direct investments are leaving. And we are asking others to come. When they come and they meet what made those people to leave, they will leave again. I believe that the president will pay as much attention to solving the issues that are in Nigeria: insecurity, energy problems. Which I'm happy that in one of the matters they discussed in Japan. But then, apart from that, it's not just discussion, but actually rolling the sleeves and then working hard to make sure that power improves. Purchasing power is by paying staff and paying, making sure that money are in the hands of those who really make demand, who demand for goods and services, not in the hands of politicians and those who will put them foreign accounts. Because when people don't have, there's no purchasing power, but most of the companies may not be able to stay when power is not there. So government should pay more attention in those things that made those who came before to leave, including Petrobras, because they were here before. What made them leave? I hope we have interrogated it enough. And if we have not, what made them leave before, we made them leave again.
Well, these are issues that we need to discuss, of course. We never have enough time on Network Africa to discuss these issues. Okwi, I know that there will be much more to discuss with you in the coming days. Thank you again for joining us on Network Africa.
It's always my pleasure.
Uganda's ruling National Resistance Movement has endorsed President Yoweri Museveni as its candidate for next year's general election and his 7th term as leader of the East African nation. On Wednesday, the 80-year-old accepted the nomination in a speech at the party's delegate conference in Kampala. He thanked the party for putting together its trust in him once again. Museveni used the occasion to tout his party's achievements, including reviving the economy of Uganda. Should he win in January, it will bring him close to 5 decades in power in the East African nation. He first took power in 1986 as head of a rebel force. He has since been elected 6 times after securing constitutional amendments to remove presidential term limits and an age cap. Meanwhile, in Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu Hassan has been approved to stand in October's presidential election. It is her first time running for the presidency. She assumed office in 2021 after the death of her predecessor, John Magufuli, in 2021. Of course, her nomination was cleared. Hassan shared a post on X earlier urging her CCM party to maintain unity to ensure victory for the party and for God's permission to return to serve citizens. She's facing a field clear of her main rivals after the country's electoral commission on Wednesday disqualified the candidates of the second largest opposition party. Luhaga Mpina of the Alliance for Change and Transparency was barred over complaints that the party had failed to comply with nomination procedures in the primaries. Another leading opposition party, Chadema, was disqualified in April after it failed to sign the Electoral Code of Conduct as part of its call for electoral reform. Well, South African opposition politician Julius Malema has been convicted of hate speech by the country's Equality Court following remarks he made at a rally in 2022. After an incident where a white man allegedly assaulted an EFF member, Malema had said, "No white man is going to beat me up. You must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing." These are Malema's words. The Equality Court ruled that these remarks demonstrated an intent to incite harm, but the EFF said that they were taken out of context. 2 complaints had been made against the 44-year-old MP, one by South Africa's Human Rights Commission, and another by a person who alleged that they had been threatened because of the politician's remarks. Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters Party, often sparks controversy in a nation where 31 years after apartheid ended, racial tensions still linger. And staying in South Africa, Nigeria is set to host a G20 meeting on industrialization and agriculture in Abuja this October. That announcement was made by the South African Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola, during a media briefing on regional integration, South Africa-US relations, preparations for upcoming G20 meetings, Middle East and Asia, and advancing peace and security on the continent. Our correspondent, Innocent Samosa, has more.
South Africa's International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola confirmed that Nigeria will host a G20 meeting on industrialization and agriculture in Abuja this October. The minister expressed gratitude to Nigeria's leadership for agreeing to host the meeting.
There's also a meeting on industrialization and agriculture in Abuja, in Nigeria, in October 2025. Again, we also thank Nigeria for agreeing to host one of these meetings. This shows our commitment to ensure that the African voice is heard and does play a role in the hosting of the G20.
On the matter of safety, security and sovereignty, the Director of Global Governance at the Department of International Relations, Zaya Amin, expressed concern over the United States bringing criminals into the Southern African region.
Look, firstly, these are bilateral agreements between the United States and specific countries. Of course, we will not touch on those particular arrangements that the US may have with these specific countries. But we are concerned in the manner in which individuals are sent across borders, particularly when there's violations of international law. Specifically when our own safety and security is threatened. And I think there has to be this mutual respect for international law and mutual respect for the safety and security of member states within the United Nations and within the global framework.
A long-standing question has been that of South Africa-US relations.
We have to prepare ourselves for any eventuality. An eventuality where there could be an agreement to reduce the tariffs, and an eventuality where there will be no change to the current tariffs that we have, the 30%, to live with them. So these are the consequences that we have to prepare ourselves to live with, to cope, and to build our own resilience as a country.
As high-level engagements continues between Washington and Pretoria, the Minister of International Relations in South Africa, Ronald Lamola, says that the engagements have been rather difficult and at times robust, but he's of a view that the country will remain resilient. From Pretoria, South Africa, at the Department of International Relations, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
The media plays a crucial role in strengthening bilateral relations by fostering narratives that transcend stereotypes. This was the thrust of the August edition of the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce Monthly Breakfast Forum, honoring the media's crucial role in strengthening bilateral ties.
Beyond storytelling. The August edition of the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce Monthly Breakfast Forum explores the role of the media in driving cultural understanding and diplomacy between Nigeria and South Africa. The session features the MTN Media Innovation Program, MIP, as a case study.
The media plays a significant role in international relations in that it serves as a bridge between nations and cultures. But the media will not do all this if the practitioners are not well formed. Such exposure promotes cross-cultural understanding and minimizes the perpetuation of stereotypes and biases.
The panel session features journalists who participated in the program. They share insights into the experiences of cultural exchange and how the MIP is helping to move reportage beyond stereotypes to foster deeper ties, thereby nurturing deeper mutual understanding.
One had to be very careful, the sort of videos we are seeing, the sort of experiences you were reading on social media. And it is important, with this MTN MIP program, because for many of the journalists who have not been there, now they get the opportunity to go there, and now they can better report about what's going on in South Africa.
The forum then seamlessly transitioned into a special media parley with the unveiling of a commemorative logo in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce.
Having come this far, having laid the foundation, we are looking up to a very, very bright future, a future that is galvanized by our coming together, the two countries, the key countries in the continent.
Other members of the Chamber's leadership also reflect on the organization's impact over the years.
There's better understanding between people in both countries, and with this understanding, the stereotype classification of Nigerians as people dealing in drugs, being involved in illegal activities, I think that has been debunked. We now know that you have a lot of Nigerians who are professors in South Africa, who are doctors, who are lawyers, who are people engaged in gainful employment in South Africa.
At the end of the day, we do want to work together. A lot of Nigerians working in South Africa, a lot of South Africans working here, a higher level of relating to Africa as a continent, and stop separating and identifying individual countries the way we do.
During the August Breakfast Forum, the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce reaffirmed a strong partnership with MTN Nigeria, emphasizing their shared commitment to enhancing regional integration and economic development across Africa.
And as we end the program, evidence of the earliest known surgery dates back to ancient Egypt around 2750 BCE. Many medical procedures then included dental work, C-sections, and skin grafting. They were performed in Africa even before they were performed in Europe. These sophisticated techniques in Africa highlight the region's significant role in the development of surgical interventions. Sounds like something is up for a discussion. But thanks for watching Network Africa. I'll see you again at 5:30.